Crackers.
Thank you. So I'm going to get right into it. I live next, you'll see a picture in a minute. I live next to the neighbor who has that yard, and it's probably unfair to compare myself because I am a professional horticulturist and I have a nice yard, but it's hard. I shouldn't compare myself to other people, and it's probably hard for them to keep up. But I'm gonna try to give you, we teach this in a 2-year program, and I'm going to condense it into 10 minutes just to get your grass looking better. It's all about, you all are here today because you're trying to improve yourself and make yourselves more competitive, and that's what I'm going to tell you to do about your grass. And then I've brought some props with me too. So first you have to figure out how many in here have a home and they have a lawn that they have to take care of. And how many of you have had that house for less than 5 years maybe? Okay, good. This is the good audience. You have a yard and you have no clue what to do with it. The first thing you have to figure out is your lawn warm or cool? And I'm not talking about is it cool looking. I'm talking about is it warm season or cool season turf? Because we can grow any and all of those things. Warm season grasses that we grow here in mid-Missouri include zoysia and Bermuda. I'm not going to tell you how to identify those because we teach that in about 3 or 4 days. I don't have that much time. Cool season grasses, fescue, bluegrass, and ryegrass. You probably have fescue. And you probably have zoysia. If you have Bermuda, you probably hate it. If you know what Bermuda is, you already know you hate it. But cool season grasses, you might have some of those other ones, and it doesn't really matter because I'm going to tell you how you tell the difference, and this is the time of year you can really tell the difference. This is just a picture of a golf course fairway. And if you have warm season turf, it does that in the wintertime. That tan strip down the middle is a warm season turf. It goes dormant in the in the wintertime, sorry. It goes dormant in the wintertime. And we call that buff color. That's the scientific name for it. But it goes dormant. You don't see it. It's not green all winter long. The cool season stuff is everything surrounding that. It stays greener a lot longer. And it's important to know that because when we have to talk about when you feed, when you fertilize, when you weed control, when you do all those things that you're supposed to be doing to your lawn, you have to know which one you predominantly have. So a couple frosts from now, you'll see if you have warm season turf, it'll turn tan and the other stuff will stay relatively green. I put this map up here because, and this is how, I'm not the turf guy at Lynn State. I teach all the tree and shrub type stuff and the landscaping. But my boss calls, well, we call it the transition zone, but he calls it the armpit. And we live, I know, by geography, if you're from Missouri, you live in the armpit. It's not that Missouri's bad. It's just from a grass growing standpoint, it's not the best one to grow in. Now, the optimist in me says, well, we live in this transition zone, which is that blue band across the middle. South of that, in the red zone, all they do is grow warm season. That's all they can grow because of climate. Above the blue zone, all we grow is cool season grass because that's their climate. The optimist says, we can grow anything we want here. The pessimist in me says, we can grow anything we want here, we just can't grow any of it very good. So if you can grow grass in the armpit of the grass-growing world, you can grow grass anywhere because we have to deal with all these things. And you can also say, well, if you failed and you think you're doing terribly at your lawn, you can blame it on geography because you happen to be in this place in the world where it's difficult to grow grass well. So the feeding time depends on, which turf you had. And I've got 2 pictures up here to help you remember. If you have cool season turf and you've determined that's what you have, you're going to need to be fertilizing very soon. You feed and you see the turkey and stuffing. It's Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving, it seems odd, I know. Go out and fertilize at that time. You're looking for a bag. When you go to the store, it says winterizer on it. It's going to have a higher amount of nitrogen in it. You're going to feed your grass at that time. It's going to take in the nitrogen all winter long because the ground stays warm. You'll have a better competitive turf when it comes to next spring. If you have a warm season grass, I have a picture up here of Memorial Day. What we think of traditionally as Memorial Day, it's the beginning of summer. And you have to think about when does your grass like to grow. If it's a cool season grass, it likes the fall and the spring when temperatures are cooler. If it's a warm season grass, it likes the summer. Feed it when it likes to grow. Okay, so that's why we're feeding our cool season turf in the cool season parts of the year, in the cooler temperatures, and our warm season turf in the warm parts of the year. Now, this is actually my yard, and that's my neighbor's yard. Like I said, you don't want to have that one. Now, I will say that my neighbor doesn't have a lot of weeds. She just doesn't mow very often. And we talk about proper mowing height, okay? Now, how many of you find mowing the lawn a big chore? Okay, and some people are reluctant because he went first. I don't like to mow the yard. I'm willing to bet that whenever you do mow, you set it as low as possible and mow it off in the hopes that I don't have to mow for another long period of time. Maybe I can stretch it to 2 weeks if I can, right? I'm here to tell you that that's not the best strategy because it's not good for the turf. Leaves are little solar panels that help feed the whole plant. And if you chop all of those off at once as low as you can, the grass just goes into shutdown mode and it does nothing and it sits there. And in that meantime, some other weed will come in. It's a stress to the plant, and it's not a good situation to keep the turf competitive. So whenever, again, think about what grass you have and what the season is. In the fall and in the spring, if you have cool season grass, it likes that. So you can mow your grass a little bit shorter in the cooler weather if you have a cool season turf. It can overcome that stress very well. In the summertime, though, if you have a fescue lawn, it's a cool season turf, set it higher. Mow it less height than you normally would because it's less stress on the grass. The converse of that is if you have a warm season turf. This was taken in the summer. That's zoysia, both of those. Zoysia, well, grass in general, I should just say. Grasses were never meant to be cut at 3 to 4 inches tall. We just happen to pick grasses that tolerate that. Okay? Grasses were never meant, they were meant to be pasture for something, and then when the dream of the white picket fence and the house came along, we had to start mowing this stuff down, and we've just picked grasses that like that. Okay? That's why all of these things are stresses on these grasses, because these grasses were never meant to do this. We just manipulate them. So increase the mowing height when it's stressful for the turf. Warm season turf, you can start to mow higher when it gets cooler because it doesn't like to grow then. The other thing that I'll tell you, and no textbook will ever tell you this either, but especially this time of year when you mow it low, and you should because if it can tolerate that, not only does it tolerate that, but leaves don't collect in your lawn and hopefully blow to the neighbor. So if you don't like picking up leaves either, set it lower now. If there's no place for the leaves to fall, they'll blow away. So encourage them to go have someone else pick them up if you're that person. I don't mind that. Leaves blow off zoysia really nice if you got zoysia. The other thing about mowing is do not take more than a third at any one given time. Again, it's all about stress relief, okay? So I don't care how tall it is. If it ends up getting this tall, it's really stressful to cut it all back off. Now, do as I say, not as I do. I did this on Saturday, mowed it all off, but it was cool season turf, so I'm okay. But it's the rule of thumb is don't take any more than a third off of the grass at any one given time because it's much less stressful on the turf. The other one is sharpen your blades, and you may not have the means to do this. There's lots of places that provide this service. Somebody might have the tools for it. I have the tools for it, but if you've never sharpened your blades, you can probably just as cheaply go buy a new one. And if you've never replaced the blades on your mower, I encourage you to do that. The picture on the left is a unsharp blade. It rips it. It doesn't cut it, it tears it. And that's not healthy for the plant because it's trying, remember, every time you cut it, it's a wound, it's an injury. And anytime you have an injury, it's a place for infection to come. So a clean cut heals better than a ripped cut. And the one on the right, and you can see this, just simply go pick up a blade of grass, look at it very closely. You don't even need a magnifying glass. You can tell if your blades are sharp or not, okay? And it's a simple fact that will help to make your turf more competitive. Weed control. Now, this could go on forever. But that shrub right there is called forsythia. And it's usually there's a ton of them out there. You've probably seen it bloom. It's the first thing that blooms in the spring with any large population anyway. They're everywhere. And when that thing is in bloom is when you put crabgrass preventer down. Okay? Crabgrasses are lots of weeds. Now, I will tell you this. It is a preventer. It only prevents seeds from germinating. It does nothing against living plants. So any weed seeds that are down, and people who made this mistake, they put grass seed down at the same time they put crabgrass preventer. Preventer does not discriminate. It has no differentiation between what's a weed and what's desirable, and it will prevent them all. So you can't do both at one time. I would rather put the crabgrass preventer down to keep the weeds from coming up instead of seeding in the spring. And I'll put this in there now. If you think you need to put grass seed down, right now is your deadline. If you don't have it down now, we're kind of cutting it close. We never know what the weather's going to do. Put some seed down now would be better than waiting till spring. Okay? Now, preventers only do so much. Like I said, they only target the seeds. So you have other weeds like dandelions and little plantain down there in the corner. You need to get rid of those with either a spray, and usually in May is a good time to do this. Or you can, if you've ever gone to the store and you see the bag, it says weed and feed. Now, a lot of people think that, oh, it says weed and feed. It's going to take care of everything. It only takes care of the broadleaves. It has nothing to do with any crabgrass. That's why you have to do both if you're trying to keep all these weeds from coming out, because we've got grassy weeds and broadleaf weeds. So you have to get rid of those too. And those things come in a granular form, or like I said, a spray form, and that'll take care of that. Usually in May is a good time to do that. This is why I brought these props with me. And I've moved from the turf, and I'm running out of time, but walk down High Street with a pair of these in the morning, and you get a lot of good looks. And there's a young woman who followed me. Yeah, and she's probably like, where's this guy going? And then I followed her in the door. I carry these for personal protection. It's hard to conceal this. But the reason I bring you these is there are people's mindset. And here's a good thing to change your mindset. Gumdrops, lollipops, and whatever you can reach and shear with one of these things, this thing cuts everything off at the same height. And that's not good. Okay, you create this, that is not a natural form for a plant. I have seen hexagonal plants, I've seen square plants, I've seen square forsythias, and that's what you use when you use these. This gets a lot done. You can just go right along. Where's Catherine? If Catherine's still here, she might be able to use these. You know, every now and then. That's why I should bring these along. This takes one cut at a time. And it may take you longer to do, but you will create a natural form much better with one of these than if you'd use this every time. If your bush is thorny or you like the gumdrop look, which I hope you don't, then use these. If you want it to look natural, use one of these and do one cut at a time. Your plant should be more hamburger bun shaped rather than, it should never have a straight side. Plants do not grow straight up. They do not, it's terrible. So that's sort of my pet peeve. And a lot of people see that and they think that's what they got to do. And a lot of people say, well, it's cool now, I'll go do it. Don't do this time of year. You're cutting off flower buds and all kinds of things. Wait till next year to do this. And a lot of people will be out there just gnawing off all kinds of stuff. So that's all I've got. I'm 2 minutes over, but hopefully you learned a little bit of something and you make your yard look a little bit better. Yeah.
If you plant hay on dirt, what kind of grass is that?
That hay is not grass. That's just a mulch to keep the seed moist for longer. If you don't have a slope, you really don't need that. That's all that's there for, is to mulch it. If it's straw, though, you might get a little wheat come up, but wheat doesn't like to get mowed off, so usually it just goes away.
Another question?
Yeah. There is something good with that. If you haven't put seed down and you put it on top of snow, when that snow melts, it kind of grabs it and pulls it down and makes soil contact. Also, when snow falls through the atmosphere, it catches nitrogen in the air and it kind of gives it a little food too, but that's why people do that.
Bill?
I have a yard that has a ton of clay, and we need that. We put into the clay and then some rock. How do I get grass to grow?
I would, fescue's your best bet. Is it sunny? Okay, then it's tough. You're blessed with everything like everyone else around here. You've got clay and rock, and that's what you have to grow in. Huh? Paint it? You could. I would, if you can amend the soil anyway and aerate the soil, which that's another activity you could be doing this time of year. If you've been out on a ball field, you see these little plugs coming up. It's not goose poop. It's plugs coming up out of the soil. That will help alleviate some of that too. Put some organic matter after you do that. That will help break up that clay a little bit too. It's tough though. It's, again, you're in the armpit. You've got a hard one to go.
Any advice with the drought that we've had this year about bringing those things back to green next year?
Stuff actually recovered better than I thought it would, and fall colors better than I thought it would be. So plants are a lot more resilient than you think, and all those things that I told you to do, a lot of people still do the wrong things anyway, and our turf still grows. Try to keep things as competitive as possible. And yeah, some of those things are dead. If it's brown now, it may be dead. Take one of these, start snipping, start breaking off. If it breaks off dry and crispy, it's probably gone. If it bends a little bit and you scratch it with your fingernail and you see green, there's still hope, so don't do anything with it until next spring and we see what happens.
Cool. Nick Rackers.